Hello, good morning everybody. My name is Becky Metcalf, and on behalf of Design Centre Chelsea Harbour, a very warm welcome to our Conversations in Craft sessions. This is our brilliant series of talks that have been specially curated for ARTEFACT. A little bit of housekeeping. I wonder if I could ask you to turn your phones off, because we're recording the session today. That would be really kind. Thank you. Well, Glass Axe. This is aptly titled. We really have got the most exceptionally talented artists on our stage this morning. Leanna Bergstrom, Lulu Harrison, Louis Thompson, and Jade Ford. And who better to speak to them? Grant Gibson. You probably know him. He's a writer. He's a podcaster. You might have seen his Material Matters, might have heard his Material Matters podcast. Should we give them a very warm welcome?
Thank you very much. It's lovely to see you. Yes, my name is Grant Gibson. I do host a podcast called Material Matters. If you've not heard of it, do check it out. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Getting my plug in early. Thank you very much for coming. When I was programming this talk, it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. It is apparently the United Nations International Year of Glass. So glass seemed an obvious subject to select. I mean, what we have on the panel are 4 extraordinary glassmakers, all at various different stages in their career using different techniques. We're going to tease out through the course of the next 45 minutes a bit about their backgrounds, their relationship with the material in question, what they're going to do in the future, why they decided to choose glass in the first instance. Before we get into that, however, it'd be good to know a little bit about you. Always keen to know who we're talking to. So can I get a show of hands? Do we have designers in the room? Smattering. Architects? You're an artist. I was going to say, yesterday you're an artist. Yeah, well, let's go for artists in that case. Makers? I said this yesterday, you've probably heard this anecdote. I'm terribly sorry, I expect the audience to change, but it's lovely to see you again. When I did this a few years ago, I did this thing, and 2 irate women came up to me after and said, you didn't mention curators when you were doing the checklist. Mm-hmm. So from now on in, I always say, curators? You're not entirely certain, sort of occasionally.
Of course, Julia.
Anybody who got off the lift in the wrong side and has no idea why they're here? No, okay, good. We all want to be here. Perfect. Well, look, what I'm going to do, the format of this is I'm going to ask each of our speakers just to briefly introduce their practice and a bit of background. Subsequently, I'll pull out the threads for 35 minutes. There's going to be 10 minutes. Do you think you could do 10 minutes of questions afterwards? That would be great. We will be done in 45 minutes. So that's brilliant. Let's start, Lena, with you. So I can ask everybody just to introduce themselves briefly to the audience to let them know a bit about your background and what it is that you do.
Yeah, I'm hello, London. I'm happy to be here again. It was a long time ago. I'm Inga from Sweden. No, just kidding. My name is Lena Bergström, and I live and work in Stockholm. I mostly work with glass, but also textiles for interior. And in glass, I'm working with serial production, limited pieces, unique pieces, and public commissions. And I just finished an exhibition, a Jubilee exhibition in Sweden, located in our Kosta factory in Kosta, and it's named Lena 25+. Oh. I've been working within the company, ARTEFACT and Kosta Boda, in 25 years, but the plus means also the pandemic came in between. The plus also means not just retrospective class, it also means new things for the future themes that I actually show a little bit teaser here downstairs at ARTEFACT at Vessel Gallery's stand. I have to think now. 70 words. We are going to have a big exhibition at Vessel's start 28th of May. What shall I say more? Have I forgot something, Ole? Yeah, 20+. I said 20. We have planned 20+ together. Vessels And yeah, can't you believe it? It's just crazy. And as I don't actually act, I don't blow myself. I'm blessed with fantastic craft people in Kosta. Glass blowers, grinders, painters. They are my extended hands.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Liana.
Thank you.
Lulu, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Lulu. I'm currently in my second year of my MA at Central St Martin's, which is called Material Futures. And for the last 2 years, I've been looking at making glass from raw ingredients and replacing some of the highly processed materials that usually go into making glass. So in particular, I've been looking at working with quagga mussels, which are an invasive species of mussel shells, and I'm sourcing them from Thames water. So I've been working a lot with the water company, and they've been supplying me with the shells, which otherwise go into landfill. So it's been quite an interesting collaboration in that sense, in finding an alternative use for the mussel shells, and also seeing how they can kind of influence the kind of appearance of the glass. And then also looking at other kind of materials that could go into glass making, and how it can make the glass look and color the glass and texture the glass. So it's been a really interesting journey, and throughout that process I've been kind of taking influence from ancient methodologies, because that would have been in the past, that would have been how they made glass, from using lots of raw ingredients, and also very like on a local scale. So that's kind of, that's what I've been looking at, and working with different glass communities. So I've been working down in Somerset, and like yourself, working with amazing glass blowers, and melting all the ingredients down there. And kind of making this new kind of glass, which has been a really interesting journey. So
Very good. Thank you, Lulu. Zade.
Yes, fine. Is this on?
It is.
Is that all right? Yeah. Not too much oomph.
You're all good.
No?
You're all
Okay.
good. Don't worry.
Sweet. Yeah, my name is Jade Ford. I am based in Manchester at the minute, originally from Bermuda, and I moved here when I was about 16. I've been basically building a practice in and out of glassmaking workshops. So I primarily made a lot of my work in university, but because there's no glassmaking in Manchester, it's just a uni. I kind of had to redesign my practice, and I do a lot of digital modeling, digital designing, and a lot of sculpting, I guess, in mold making and shapers and formers. So a lot of my work is kind of pre-glass making, so that kind of informs some of the work that I do. And I also work in a lot of cultural events based in Manchester, deal with music and heritage from back home in Bermuda. It's kept me busy, left hospitality, so now I'm kind of focusing primarily on my making, and I think that covers everything. This year we've done a Collect exhibition that was really, really exciting. Also done Jerwood Arts Fund, so working on that at the minute. It's been a good start to the year. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Last but definitely by no means least, Louis, the floor is yours.
Hi, so I'm Louis, and I'm based in West London, and I've been working for glass for 35 years, which I find a really scary number now. I
don't look that old, Louis,
can't
it's
believe
fine.
time has passed so quickly. But so I primarily work with hot glass. I'm very much a hands-on. I'm very much a maker. I enjoy the process of glass blowing. So for me, making the objects really sort of underpins a lot of what I do. I discovered glass by accident. Originally enrolled on an industrial design degree, but fell in love with glass very early on at university, having watched somebody blow glass, and was completely sort of mesmerized by that. And I've been very fortunate since graduating to really be able to forge a full-time career with the medium. I was very lucky to work in a couple of production studios when I graduated in '88, and I spent 6 or 7 years really making tableware. And so that discipline and that kind of repetition actually now informs a lot of what I do. The work that I make at the moment is often to do with sequences and collections of objects. I sent myself back to college when I was in 2007. So I'd have been 40 then, I think. 14. Just trying to do the maths. So I went back to college, went back to school, went to the Royal College of Art, and that was, for me, that was a really amazing experience. That really enabled me to totally reevaluate my practice, and the work that I do today has been informed by a lot of projects that I did there. I very much enjoy working in site-specific spaces, places like the St. John Soanes Museum, Sigmund Freud Museum, Salisbury Cathedral. I've done some quite significant, quite big installations in those environments. So I very much I enjoy responding to spaces and particular kind of context in the work that I do. And I also enjoy making for other artists. I do a lot of work as a sort of jobbing glassblower, making and realizing and executing work for other practitioners. And for me, I enjoy that challenge of bringing other people's vision to life, really. So I mix my practice between making and designing my own work and working as a technician almost for other practitioners.
Very good. Thank you very much. Well, that's the panel. I need to kick off. I mean, there's the big question first. I'm looking at you, Leanna, which is Eurovision Song Contest on Saturday. And you've created a piece for the Eurovision Song Contest, right?
Yes.
Tell us all about that.
Oh, in Sweden?
Yeah.
Yes. No, actually, we got a question. The people from the TV have seen the planets, which we saw maybe rolled on some parts here. And the woman worked with all the interior for that moment. She said, could you please do something, nearby the speaker? And I felt, because it was a very nice light, so I actually took the planet, which comes from an egg, and egg shapes, and I draw, it's actually below, I call them egg, because all of us come from egg, and it's cut in different characters, personalities, depending on the color, cuts, and so to speak. So back to Eurovision, I want to have a clear one with cutted chaos in math, not polished, because the light picking up that surface in a very good way. It looked like tiny little stars. They are stars. It's like the stars in the sky.
Yeah.
So that looks really great.
It?
So that they actually came to us and asked, Lena, could you do this?
Yeah.
Something for us?
See, I never thought I'd ask about Eurovision Song Contest on this stage, so I'm actually made me very happy last night as I was looking at your website.
Yeah,
was
that
like,
was nice to be there without singing. It was kind of main focus.
Yeah. Very good.
I was very pleased.
Let's really get back to the subject, because I'm pretty certain nobody turned up to talk about Eurovision Song Contest, although I could talk about it all day, obviously. The material, glass. Can I pick up about when you discovered it and how you felt when you discovered it? Because Leanna, coming to you first. I mean, you were like window dressing. You're in kind of retail design for a
in
while.
the beginning.
Then obviously textiles.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested in that relationship between the retail practice, but then textiles, and then how you got into glass. I think you've described it as you design hard textiles and soft glass. Can we talk about that relationship?
Yeah, I don't know actually, because when I was studying at National School of Design and Art in Stockholm, I sort of wanted to have more stiff architectural fabrics. As an exam job, I did woven rubber into sound walls. And a teacher of mine asked me, Lena, if you want to work in another material, what should it be? And I said glass. And then 1994, the glass came to me.
So why glass? Why did you say glass?
No, I don't know. I think it's sensual, magical, beautiful. And also the process. I mean, ARTEFACT asked me to come and join a special project. And I recognize nowadays, 25, 30 years after, I'm very much into materials. What can glass do, not do? What could textile do? Wool, linen. And after that project, I fell in love. I fall in love in glass. But also the process and the teamwork. So it's actually everything. But I think as a glass, it's so magical. And from this soft, hot, to this hard, a little bit stubborn material, because it could break. talking about in work. And to keep on. So that's how can I keep the soft look? If you look at my new heart flowers and some planners, they look stopped in the process, like the squeeze vase, or a strict, sharp, cutted piece. So it's the contrast.
So,
Did you get any answers of the question?
Yeah, I did, yeah, I think. But when you wake up of a morning, I mean, do you have days where you're going, I'm doing textiles today, or I'm going to concentrate on glass design? How do you,
No,
your brain, how's your brain working? What's the process?
It's help each other, actually. I think
Right.
I work in textile a lot with architecture, special commissions for interior, for furniture and fabrics. But I think it's about structures, but in two different material ways. So, I mean, textile could be something with the surface. I recognize myself, I love structures, bodies, rooms, tiny little rooms, big rooms. It's about, and I mix, I'm going backwards and forwards, and I think that's good for me, because then I can relax. Okay, my glass brain, I relax. Textiles, yeah. So I go like this. It suits me very well as a personality. Yes, I think so.
And Lily, tell me about you, because, I mean, Lena started in retail design or window dressing. I mean, you were in fashion, right?
Yeah.
So what was,
Similarly,
so it's almost seamless.
That's-
Segged into that. It's like I
Wow.
researched this occasionally. I mean, I'm intrigued to know how you go from fashion. I mean, what were you doing in the fashion world, and then how did you end up doing what you're doing now?
So I own my kind of small-scale fashion business, and it was working a lot with waste material. So I was actually working a lot with kind of old bed sheets, and looking at kind of reusing these materials to make, like, I did a lot of festivals and like selling kind of dungarees and play suits, and it was really fun. And looking at how you could kind of reuse these materials and make new clothes. So I was always interested in that kind of circularity of materials and reusing waste to give new purpose. So I think for me, glass it kind of came about through a combination of things, but it was, being part of my course, I knew I wanted to kind of take a new direction, because I'd been in fashion since I was 16, so I kind of wanted to take a new path. And it was, through I used to live in Cornwall, so I had a big passion for the ocean and like all things kind of, to do with the sea and shells and just those materials kind of based around there. So, and I grew up by the river as well, so kind of the water has always played quite a big part of my life. And then it was through kind of, conversation with my course leader and like thinking, what material kind of do you want to work with? And I kind of had a basic kind of knowledge about the chemistry of glass during that time. And I was aware that calcium carbonate is kind of one of the components that goes into glass making, so it's also known as limestone. So I kind of began researching and kind of looking at what we could use as a replacement of that.
Okay.
So it kind of started off my initial kind of investigation into that and looking at kind of, repurposing different kind of materials and just beginning to understand the glass alchemy a bit more. So that kind of led me down this kind of path of getting interested in ancient glass making and seeing how they used to do it. And
So how do they do it? What is the process?
So, I mean, from my kind of, my knowledge is kind of, because I've been working with different groups. I've been working with a group called the Post-Disciplinary and Experimental Glass Group, and they do a lot of glass archaeology and the history of glass making. And it kind of, I think one of the periods in glass making I've been looking at called forest glass was they had glass houses in these forests, and they'd use kind of all the materials around them. So it was, looking at using kind of things like the wood ash and the sands, and a lot of the time the shells were already present, not the shells, but the limestone were present in the sands already. So it kind of was this process of collecting all these raw ingredients, and it's a huge amount of processing that goes into it, which I've discovered. And then sort of there would be many different stages of melting down the raw ingredients. And so and then they'd use these big kind of open furnaces. And then they'd kind of, it would just be melting and melting and melting, and you'd kind of have to do this process to get to a very a finer glass. But I think it's amazing how they did it, because they created these amazing glasses, and I've learned from my own kind of processes how difficult it is actually to make glass from raw ingredients. it's really difficult to make a workable glass.
Well, I was going to ask,
So-
I mean, obviously the photos are rolling and we're not quite on your photos at the moment, but they will arrive. I mean, your finished product, if you compare it to conventional glass, I mean,
Yeah.
is it exactly the same or are there differences?
There's definitely differences. I mean, in the actual, so the kind of stage we've got to now is kind of creating a workable glass, and I think that's something which has been quite interesting working with the glass blowers, because it's kind of a lot kind of, it's interesting. It keeps its heat quite a long time, and it is workable, but I think it's almost like a bit stiffer, because for them, I guess for the glass blowers they're used to working with kind of the ones that we've been using as Kugler, I think, but it's
Yes.
so it's I guess it's just a bit more thick, a bit more bubbly, kind of. But the longer we've been melting it, the longer we've been finding it to become more kind of glassy, which has been interesting. So I think a lot of it is time and patience, and just like having the ability to kind of melt over a very long period.
So it's alchemy, fundamentally, is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is alchemy, and it's you never really know like what's going to happen, because even if you just change like one thing in your recipe, then like the whole thing could change drastically. So it's kind of amazing, and that's kind of why I love it, because you never really know what you're going to get, and sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it doesn't blow, which is like just crazy. You just have this glass and it's just like not blow, like you can't blow it, you can't work with it. But the colors as well have been really interesting, working with these kind of natural materials, seeing these different colors coming from the impurities. So it's been really like a fascinating journey, definitely. And I kind of love that unpredictability of not really knowing what you're going to get. So like a lot of the glass is a bit wonky or a bit kind of bubbly, and I think that's kind of what gives it its character, is the kind of like how it like it's not sort of this kind of standard glass you see now, more with like lots of like manufacture, and kind of it's very like unpredictable. But
Very
I think
good.
that's interesting.
Very good, thank you. To avoid just going along the line, Jada, I'm going to come to you last. I'm going to go to Louis, just to mix it up a little bit. And I mean, you know, I hate the word journey, but I'm about to use it. Your journey, Louis. You were studying product design. When did you discover glass? And what was it about the material that made you go, right, this is for me?
First year at university, industrial design degree, and the course had inbuilt a number of different sort of ceramics and surface pattern and textiles, and we had an opportunity to try all those different medium. And I had no idea there was a glass program there, and I just walked into the hot shop, and I was absolutely transfixed by, Neil Wilkin was working actually. He was the tutor at my university at that time. And I watched him make glass, and there was just something about the heat and the glow and the team working and the collaboration and the conversation between the makers in the studio that just really, that I got excited by, and I was able to then have a go, and I knew the minute I took the first bit of molten glass from the furnace, I knew that it would be a challenge to work with it every single day.
Well, so what are the challenges?
The challenge is, as they have pointed out, it's incredibly unruly, unpredictable. It's full of surprises. You know, physically manipulating the material to achieve the kind of outcomes that you want. And actually, I've learned to, as when you start off, you have a very particular vision about what your piece should, what your object is you're making, what you're trying to achieve. But I think over time, I've kind of come to sort of learn that to understand what the glass and the process and the making process can bring to your ideas, and not to be so sort of, I guess, transfixed about an outcome before you start making. So for me, the material is physically challenging to work with, and it's I love the surprises. Every day is a challenge, and every day you learn something new. It's a medium where you sort of never really stand still, and I love the fact that I'm on this lifelong journey with the material, and it's providing me with kind of answers and challenges every day, and I think that's what really draws me to working with hot glass, really.
I mean, can I ask, because you alluded to it in your little introduction, but you've been an established maker for quite a long time, and you decided to go to the Royal College of Art.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, in the first instance, why did you decide to do an MA at that point in your career?
I'd spent a lot of time teaching at that point, back at my old university. I'd done a lot of work with other practitioners. I'd made work occasionally for exhibitions, no real great portfolio of kind of objects. And it was the right kind of moment. I felt sort of mature enough. I felt my sort of skill level was good enough to sort of go and undertake an MA program and actually get the most out of it at that moment in time. So I just sent myself back to school, as it were, and it was an absolute revelation to sort of unburden all my sort of to release all my kind of preconceptions about what I thought glassmaking was about, and the academics there and the staff there just really got me to look at the material in a new way, with a fresh pair of eyes, really. And the work that I do now really sort of has come out of those sorts of different projects and those experiences.
So what did your work look like when you arrived there, and what did it look like by the time you'd left, I wonder?
It was very controlled, I suppose. You know, the sort of, there was very little room for chance, serendipity, whatever you want to call it. You know, I was very fixated about having an idea on paper, and it being that when I made it. But when I went to the college, it sort of allowed me to sort of think about chance and accidents and allowing, as I said, allowing sort of serendipity to creep in and to sort of rethink about glass as not this perfect, pristine, sort of kind of manufactured material, and to allow a sort of freedom and a looseness when I was working with it in the hot shop, because I'd done a lot of production work, you know, a lot of table work that was all about kind of accuracy and dimensions, and it all had to be the same, and everything had to be the same level and the same color tone. You know, I had that kind of ingrained in me as a maker, but going to the college sort of allowed me to sort of kind of unshackle that a little bit, and to use my skills in a different kind of manner, I suppose.
And so you were going to be a footballer.
Yeah,
You brought up as a user, and you came over here to play football, right?
Yeah. That was the thing, because, you know, you've got a dream as a young person. You've got these sights envisioned, and life doesn't always go that way. But football helped me to get an incredible amount of dedication, discipline, hunger, and a bit of competitive nature. So that's why, you know, it brought me out here, and then realized, okay, that's a whole other thing. It's a factory farmed industry. It didn't really go well, but I carried that on, you know, and I got stuck into craft making. My mom made sure I always kept with my art, because she actually, you know, helped me, you know, taught it to me when I was young. So it kind of like, you know, it was like a enlightenment, you know. I was just like, right, okay, I've got this skill, let me use it, let me push it.
Because you started with clay, I think I'm right.
Yeah. So in Bermuda, I was in high school, so I have clay, mixed media, loads of different types of combinations of stuff. And then when I moved to Manchester, and everyone was asking me, why am I in Stockport? Are you crazy? I was like, yeah, but yeah, as an artist, you have to be a bit crazy, you know. And I just cracked on with it, and it all made sense, because art is a language, and you just go with this language, and you learn new things and new ideas and new trades. So throughout uni, college, I was just trying everything. I think you have to do that to be able to know what you want to make and what you want to engage with other people and other industries. So I was in clay, wood, screen printing, Jesus, so many. And like with your practice, you go through this design perfection route, and then you instantly kind of find your nature. So I pretty much started off as that. I got into a lot of mold making, modeling on programs like SolidWorks. Maya is what I'm using at the minute, and that helped me to create a body of work that I had control over. So,
well, yeah, let's talk about the work that you came out with. I first saw you, was it 2017, graduating at New Designers, and you had this intriguing kind of work that was based around your first breath.
Oh,
when
yes,
when you were blowing.
Yes.
Can we talk about the relationship of your breath and the technology that was required to create the work?
Yes, my breath was good at the time. It smelled really well. That wasn't the concept, but we wanted to capture how the technique can be directly or digitally imprinted into the glass, and it just kind of like this huge like wow moment because it was a collaboration with a furniture maker, and we used this technique of revolving in molds, and basically the wave pattern was turned and revolved in the program, so it created 3D-dimensional objects. So we were able to really emulate the process of the glassmaker and this really interesting bonding and marriage of the digital world into the physical world, and kind of shine light on these two matrix style craft bonding together, and yeah, that went really well. That was like a light bulb moment, and I carried on with the mold making, and I worked with water jet cutting with metal. Tons of stuff, man, because it all translated into glass as the main medium, and it made sense. It made sense to go that route because I can't stick with one thing. I've got just too many ideas, but it's all about how you curate that and how you want to make sure it's not too random. And I learned that in university. You got to find the right track, but always pick up things along the way, and then incubate it in what you want to kind of create as your style.
Sure.
So
sure. When we first met, I wrote a piece for you for Crafts magazine at the time that I was editing, and you were uncertain at that point whether you could continue working with glass because finding the equipment that you required to make it was going to be incredible. I mean, as you pointed out in your intro, there was no hot shop in Manchester, which is not an insignificantly sized city. So, I mean, glass making, it's quite a hard route to take, right? It strikes me.
Yeah. And the university, that was up to a certain extent where I couldn't really go in and just, can you make some glass today? It's not, you got to be tons of risk assessment and loads of stuff. So I had to pretty much travel to Sunderland or St. Helens, or I've done a placement where I met. It's a crazy thing to see him work and see how the industry and the trade kind of how you can get into it and how you continue that. So I knew I had to go back to what I knew and what I can do at home and what I can access. So that's why I've done a lot of modeling, a lot of drawing, sketching, and editing. And then when I was able to go into workshops and hire, I brought all of these preconceived ideas, and the design stage was like, a lot of input. So when the glass came, it was like this birth of another specimen that you're only seen on a sketchbook. So it's an interesting process, and it costs incredible amounts of money. So I can't just go to workshops every other day. So it's got these spaces in between to create, think, readapt, and then go and
presumably you have to get it right if you're going to a workshop. It's costing you money. You have to make sure that you're going to.
That's hard.
And it breaks. So after all that work, you lose, 100 pounds within 2 hours because all the design. So, but that's the thing about glass. It creates that hunger, and it creates that that competitiveness. You want to get it done. You want to refine and finish and see the result. So it's like you're constantly chasing this material.
So you're competing with the material.
Yeah, since day one.
I think we all like sort of being on the cusp. We like that kind of,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you're on the edge all the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
when you're making something.
Yeah.
Is it gonna make
No,
it into
correct.
the film? Is it gonna work? And I think that it's kind of an addiction, and that excitement, I think it probably you know.
So the potential for failure is one of the exciting elements of working with the
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Will I be able to realize this? Will it, you know, can I make it a reality? And I think that, you know, that's quite a drive. It's quite a
drive.
gives you a lot of motivation to sort of make it happen. And
Yeah,
whether it's
yeah,
investing huge amounts of money to realize work, it is expensive to go to a studio. You know, investing the time in developing ideas, it's a huge investment creatively and financially and practically as well.
And that involves the work, you know, because you're like,
and then
you try constantly, and then you're never satisfied. Honestly, I'm 20, I'm 28 now. I'm still like,
Oh my God.
that's not good enough.
Yeah, you are always
And
thinking about the
maybe
next
that's
piece.
the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, to force yourself forward.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny though, you're playing football. I played basketball 20 years. And I think talk about team also, but also that you want to continue, next. And the process, I agree totally 100%. It's a fourth. I mean,
I'm quite intrigued by the relationship between design and making around this panel, but in general with glass. I mean, presumably you have to forge very personal relationships with the makers that you work with. And are there particular makers you go to for a particular project? And how does that relationship develop and change over time?
As I said before, I'm very blessed to have this opportunity to work, if I compare to you guys. So I'm really, to have all these fantastic men. And it's actually I love to work with unique and limited pieces as serial production. I love frames, but I also love all these accidents. Or, I mean, of course you can have an idea, and you keep that idea. But if something happens, which it did for a series of vases, for Squeeze, for instance, talking about the process, all those drops were supposed to be art for an exhibitions. But suddenly, a drop just fall apart. And I said to Yuki, keep it, take it out now. And it looked like stopped in the process. And I said, that's a good idea to bring to the production. Try to produce a vase, look like unique in the production. So we did a special made tool to squeeze it by hand. So everyone becomes kind of unique. So that's the way how we work, that you can start to do prototypes, or you can start to do a unique idea, and suddenly it could be transformed to an idea in the collection. So it's a kind of, you talk to your ideas for yourselves and with the team, and they are so open-minded. Sometimes they say, oh, we can't do this. It doesn't meant to be, we can't do it. We never done this before.
Yeah.
So, and it's, of course, I need to be precise, to be very focused, just few words, and to be very determined. If I'm losing my concept, they become nervous. So I need to be sharp, tiny little words, and be there together, close to the guys, just to tell what to do. Like, you know, because it's like I'm a conductor, and they are my fantastic extended hands. And it's the same process, of course, hot work. You know, you need to be very quick and see what are we doing, what's happening. Oh, that's good, keep it. Continue. Then we come to the grinders. Okay, then I draw lines and talk to the guys, how can we solve this? And for instance, in the production, of course, we need frames because it molds, and we need to do this thousands. But people couldn't afford to buy a votive. So I talk about costs now. I mean, all these experiments, it's a kind of, I mean, a palette for the future, both for exhibitions or, you know, for the future products. But it's also about people love glass. I have a glass that I can drink water, a nice wine, or a candle holder, hope. So it's for me, I just love it. I can't pick. Because it's important for me, both of them. So but it's a very nice process. Everyone getting used to this kind of system. Of course, something happens, and I'm talking about costs for you guys. You rent, you pay for each time. And of course, I'm thinking the right way. Or we didn't manage those hours in the hot shop. Oh, it happens something. It breaks the tension. The colors. It's all this kind of palettes or all this way you need to think of. Also, production-wise, does it work in the production? But for me, I love both.
Yeah.
Glass is so much.
Well, it does. Glass. I probably should have said this in the intro. But the extraordinary thing about glass is it runs from art, design, technology, science. It's a material that we are literally surrounded
Exactly.
by.
Look at it.
Yeah.
You see the contents. Pour wine. It depends something air. It's you can put your 2022 years air in a globe and keep it.
Yeah, no, it's intriguing stuff. Lou, just before, because I'm very keen to send some questions out to you. Thank you very much for your patience. But just very quickly, I was at a show in Leeds, which was artists working in glass. Many of the pieces weren't made by the artists themselves, obviously. I was intrigued that actually none of the makers were credited. If you make a film, then the person that puts the film into the camera has a credit at the end. I'm intrigued. Does that culture bother you as a maker of somebody who makes pieces for other artists?
Not in the slightest. No.
Interesting.
Not in the slightest. I see that role really as a sort of creative kind of technician, really. And, I'm happy to input into that process, whether it's through making or thoughts about the design or the sort of the creative aspects of the project. But no, I don't have any. I don't have any real hang-ups about that at all. Purely as a technician, making work for other practitioners. Sometimes it's a very specific brief and that practitioner wants something very specific and I have very little input other than making and realizing the object. And then there are other times where, it really is a conversation between the artist and the maker and, you're inputting suggestions and thoughts and ideas about the material and the process, but the kind of authorship of that object really sits with the artist or the designer.
Interesting. Questions. I've got a big clock in front of me. I don't know if you can see me looking at it. It says 3 minutes 37. So if anybody's got a question, we'd love to hear it. If you could let us know who you are and what you do, that would be great.
Hello.
Hello.
Juliet from Vessel Gallery, exhibiting downstairs. I wanted to ask what you see the future of your practice being, seeing glass has this amazing history, but there are immense challenges facing what you do. Everyone's despairing at their energy costs, and I think that's probably one of the most painful things I could put towards you, but it's not the only problem that you have. So, what do you see as what do you see the future of your practice and the problems that you have and what you need to overcome?
Is that going to the whole panel?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, really quickly.
Oh my God!
I know, it's
I didn't
quite
understand the question. Julia, what's the future?
Yeah.
Oh my God! It's actually taking care of all this energy I was losing to solve that problem. I think, if you're talking production point of view, everything. But as you can see in architecture, you use a lot of glass and windows. I think maybe in the interior architecture you can see a lot of decorative light, and glass in another sense, if you compare to have a drink or so. But I think it's talk about your concept. It's interesting how you can try to solve because it's hard, and it's talking about patience. This is about patience. I think that's the way of taking care of all this electricity that it actually needs to be if you are doing glass making. It's many degrees, 1200 degrees, but also how do we do this? How do we solve this? That's, I think, the main goal, actually, in a broader point of view.
Does somebody want to come in there? Louis, did I hear an
I would say as creative artists and designers, whatever those obstacles are that are placed in the future, we find ways to navigate through that. And whether it's through energy or costs or material or recycling, as creative people will find creative solutions to to continue working with the sort of medium that we love. And I think, you know, we'll find a way somehow.
Yeah, to touch on that, it's same thing as Star Wars. You know, we've all seen Star Wars.
I have.
And if you see the year that's based in, but yet they use a very old age and traditional techniques of living, of everything. So it's like this futuristic, but yet tribal, you know, kind of like consolidation. So it's like glass was made and the Roman Empire was made. So it might revert back to that.
Yeah,
You know, glass was
know.
made without big, massive furnaces. And so if it was made back then, maybe in the future, we'll have to revert to old age techniques.
And maybe like looking at working kind of on a more of a local scale.
Yeah.
So reducing the kind of the transportation costs and emissions,
Yeah.
and kind of like looking at the materials that we can use around us as well. But that's been something interesting, looking at kind of reusing these waste materials too within glass making. But I think the gas is a big thing. But I know a few glass blowers are kind of moving on to kind of more like biofuels and methane gases, and looking at kind of powering their own sort of furnaces through their farms, and so it's quite interesting looking at that, taking that route as well. Different sources.
Yeah, like food, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too young for the good life. Blimey. Any
Now
more
I'm going outside and
Any
blow
more
my own
questions?
glass.
No, can we, one more question? Have we got somebody? If you could let us know who you are, sir, that would be great.
Yeah, hi, my name's Kevin, and I come from a sales background, and I had a question. I don't know how much time we have, but how do you historically connect with your customers? And post-COVID, what market avenues excite you going forward? I know that the COVID sort of changed everything, and now we're looking for this new normal. What markets excite you?
Ooh, it's a proper commercial question. Who wants to pick that up? Should we go to the designer first?
Yeah. No, it's actually an interesting question, because when COVID came, you thought, oh my God, no, everyone has stayed inside. They don't buy anything at all. Everything is just stopped. It came to be the opposite. So actually, ARTEFACT Kosterboda increased the business 30% because people were sitting home and wanted to have, keep very nice home, buy new cushions or, glass or vases, and take care, enjoy. You always want to have beauty surrounding you. So that's actually the commercial. I mean, if that was an answer on your questions, I'm not sure. But, who should know? And suddenly everything, it was busy. And for instance, in Kosta, they stopped the factory for a while, So they had problem to start because the order came in. So it's rather tricky to solve in the production. But it became actually, COVID is not good, but that was the result of it.
Yeah.
You found a way. I mean, that's quite, from the designer's point of view, thinking about the market. Let's go to the artist point of view. Do you think about markets when you're making something?
No, I'm not a businessman in any shape or form. I kind of, I try and make the work that I want to make, and I try and find avenues to sort of present that work in whatever context that might be, through an exhibition or installation or online. So it's navigating through and finding routes to be able to, present what I do really, through galleries or whatever. So,
I mean,
Johnny, what about?
I guess mine was the opposite. It was taking a look at who I am, what I want to learn, what I want to actually push into a market when it comes back alive. So it was more, looking at the work itself and the making and the process over the lockdown, and it really solidified what I wanted to do, and then what we eventually pushed out into the market. So the market was kind of like a back burner sort of thing, and then now everything's back up and running. It's like looking at networking and retailing and getting things out in the shops and pushing that out. But that was probably the most important stage, to know what you want to make and who you are as an artist.
Yeah, and Lula, you're at the start of your career.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were coming up with this as an MA student, Are you thinking about who might pick this up, or how does that work?
I mean, it's taken quite an interesting route now because I've been working with a few of us got picked from the course to work with a design agency called Here Design, and it's looking at how our practices could be applied into the future and looking at working with different industries. So they teamed me up with an architect called Bureau de Change and a drinks company, and seeing kind of future visions for the glass and how it could be applied in different scenarios. So I think for me, working with industry and collaboration is always kind of the way I want to move forward with it, because I think that's kind of the most interesting.
And that's
way.
on now during Craft Week?
That is on now.
People can go and see it?
Yeah.
Let's plug it.
Yeah. It's on 48 Brook Street in Mayfair, starting tonight.
Very good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Very good. 48 Brook Street starting tonight. I've got a screen that's been saying 0 seconds at me for some time now. So I'm going to have to wrap this up, I'm afraid. I'd really like to say, well, thank you very much for coming in the first instance. And then thank you very much to my panel, to Leanna, to Louis, Lulu, Jana, and to Louis. Thank you all very much.
Just our word of thanks as well. Gosh, this session has been an absolute revelation. Glass is such an exciting medium. There's definitely an alchemy to it, but it's unruly and it's full of surprises. And I think, Louis, you said every day it was a challenge. Maybe that unpredictability is why you're all so drawn to it. I just think it never stands still, and I have a feeling it keeps you all in your toes. Thank you, Leanna. Thank you, Lulu. Thank you, Jade. Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Grant, for looking after us so brilliantly this afternoon. If you want to see Leanna's work, it's in the galleries downstairs, so please do have a look and see it in person, because it is absolutely beautiful. Thank you very much indeed. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you.